Hi, and welcome back to the Gut Feeling podcast, or Magefølelsen in Norwegian. This is a glorious day. It's sunshine outside, and it's 2025, and I've been feeling the energy shift going into this year. It's been so amazing, kind of going from a life where I have felt kind of like the aftermath of a burnout and the life that I needed out of that, and now going into a more kind of creation, really feeling that my body is strong and it's time to create the life that I want to live. And it's so interesting looking back on the history of this podcast on Magefølelsen. It's been mainly in Norwegian. I've been doing it since 2020, and back then, I was interviewing all of these women that I was like, oh, these are so great role models. It's women that have dared following their path and doing what they want to do, no matter what the outside world expects from them, no matter the pressure from people. They've just been like, I want to go this path. And you might say that's not clever, or I wouldn't do that. And they were like, I'm going to do it anyway, And I love that power. And I didn't know it back then, but it turns out that this podcast became like a journey for me to find that path in my own life. And I thought that, I was on a path, and I had leadership positions, and I had worked my way up. I was in, management roles. I was, the head of kind of positions. And still, I was like, there's something lacking. And I burned out twice, and I was like, there's something that is just missing in my formula of doing things. And now I see so clearly what that is, and that's what I want to share going forward on the podcast and on the YouTube channel. What causes burnout, and what is the difference between success in the more square normal way that burns people out versus when you do something you're passionate about, but it comes from the inside and doesn't come from lack. And it doesn't matter so much what other people say, because you're not doing it out of recognition. You're not doing it to get proof that you're good enough, that what, oh, finally I succeeded. But it's from this core, this anchoring, that this just feels right. And I'm sure that, you can feel the difference in your own life, the times that you've been doing things for others versus the times that you've just been like, I just got to do this. I don't know why. It doesn't make kind of sense. Like, everyone says it's a bad idea, but I just feel, down to my core that this is what I need to do. And whenever we follow that, at least in my experience, whenever I follow that, it really creates a lot of magic in my life. Yeah. So I really want to focus, especially 2025, on how we create our own lives, and how we do that from very, this center point from anchoring. And if you don't understand what anchor means, it means that you do it from your inner power, that you find power within to create because it feels right, and not, from, asking a lot of people for recognition and asking like, oh, does this sound right? Is this clever? Like, what do you think? And it's not that we cannot, find happiness and energy and other people's recognition, but it's more this, we're not depending on it, because we always come back to our core, and it's like, okay, I hear you and I hear your feedback, but I'm so steady in my own ideas and my own reality that actually I don't need everyone's approval. And the fact is, when you do whatever you're meant to do, some people are not going to like it. And that's very uncomfortable, and that's where the anchoring and the core comes in, because you can come back to it. You don't lose it just because someone says like, oh, I don't like that, or no, that doesn't sound good. It's like, well, you do you, I do me. And that feels good. It's been scary, very, very scary, and I can't say that I'm fully there. This is it's a journey, but I definitely, I've been finding this inner strength into doing what I want to do. Yeah. And I've been using some specific tools, and I want to share a bit about these tools and how to use them, and also how these tools don't only go into, our private life and, creating the life that makes us feel good. But it also goes into corporations, it goes into relationship dynamics, it goes to family dynamics, it goes into international politics. It's it's so intertwined. And it's interesting that I got to this, and it doesn't feel random, because I've been really, in my work previously, working in corporations, I always came in and I straight went to the core and looked at the root of things. And I've been all my life kind of curious about the root of things. And suddenly I found this framework that goes into so many aspects of life, and I'm just like, I gotta share this. And it's just so powerful. And it's not a quick fix, because we're human beings, we're conditioned, we have our trauma, there's situations, there's world politics, we can't change things like that. However, just knowing the framework gives us so much power over our own situation, because what we keep doing is going into this victimhood, where we're just like, oh no, this isn't possible, I'm stuck, there's nothing I can do about it. And more in the world, we see hopelessness in people. This, there's so many big problems that there's nothing I can do, so I'm just not going to do anything. And that's kind of, how we define depression. It's when we feel hopelessness, and that there's no point in me trying, I don't matter. And we can't have a society where, the society is defined by hopelessness / depression. It's not so strange, the world now going into, maybe some economical problems like depression. Maybe that's just a symptom of, what we have created. And in this, it's so important to keep our core and believe that I matter, you matter, everyone matters. I can create and you can create. And if everyone believes that, together we can create so much. But the hopelessness of being like, it's too big. Yes, I agree, it's big, and it can feel a bit overwhelming. And what do we do when things are overwhelming? You probably have a job. What do you do when it's a big problem? You separate it into smaller pieces. Action steps that you can take today. So what are the action steps that you can take today to gradually move towards the future that you want to be a part of, the future you want to create? Not putting your head inside the sand like a fucking, what is it called, struts? Astro, the things with the long heads that put their heads into the sand, because that's what so many people are doing. We are also, generations now of cowards, that are just like hiding behind our phones and behind our computers, like writing and complaining. How attractive is that? It's like, oh, what happened to the world? Everything is so shit and blah, blah, blah. What are we doing about it? And I'm not saying doing in the way of complaining. What are you creating? What kind of role model are you? What actions are you taking? If you complain about something, don't go out doing the same thing, you know? And that's the thing, that people follow our actions, not our words. We see it all the time, you know, in politics and everywhere. People are so big with words and then they do something totally different. And it's like, people don't listen to what you say. They see what you do and they follow your actions. So we got to create. We got to go out and do it. And that's what I've been really feeling, the shift from 2024 to 2025, that I'm just like, enough analyzing, analyzing research has, of course we got to do it, and I'm still doing it. I'm doing it all the time. I'm kind of a research analysis nerd, if you haven't noticed. Really kind of figuring out the depths of things and learning tools and just understanding things, you know, that's important. But we can't stop there, you know, because we're living lives. So how do we go out actually doing and creating these things? That's what's the interesting thing is, you know, going from thinking, oh, I'm so jealous, you know, this person has this thing or knows this thing. Oh, and you know, I'm here and I don't manage to, you know, this person is so perfect, blah, blah, blah. They have all of these things. And then we're sitting at home complaining and it's like, oh, you know, but they're lucky. They inherited money. They have this good body. They're good looking. You know, things just fell into their hands. This is the victim role speaking. You know, it's the complaining and putting jealousy into an excuse for not doing. Instead of being like, I'm jealous. I also want to be there. What did this person do to get there? Maybe asking the person, how did he get there? And maybe you realize it didn't just land in their lap. They worked for it. Everyone, even the pretty, the wealthy, everyone worked for it. You know, yes, their conditions were maybe a bit easier than yours, but they still worked for it. Everyone does. You're not born like on stage and these kind of things. So they worked for it. Maybe your path is longer, maybe it looks different, but you can still do it. But you gotta start. If you're not starting, if you're just sitting complaining and being jealous instead of being like, I'm jealous, I want this, and using it as inspiration into what you want to prioritize in your life, where you want to put your focus. Because if your priority is laying on the couch, watching TV, scrolling your social media, gaming, and you really want to be a super good salsa dancer, if you really want to be fit, if you really want to be a good skier, if you want to do snowboarding, surfing, I don't know, sailing, or, you know, excel in your job, or create a podcast or a YouTube channel, or be an actor, or, you know, I don't know what your dream is. I don't really care. You should. It's not so relevant for me because I have my own dreams, you know. I want to see you go after them and create it. But don't sit around thinking that it's just going to land in your lap. Because you are right now creating your own life. And the longer you sit there complaining, thinking that, you know, there's going to come some prince on a white shining horse, or that, you know, some money is gonna come and then, you know, things are just gonna just land in your lap. That's never gonna happen. And even if you get that money, you're probably gonna find another excuse. You know, there's always, I don't have the time, I don't have the energy, I don't have the resources, I don't have the network, I don't have those skills. Well, you don't, maybe right now, you don't have them right now. That's true. But what do you have? You know, you're maybe not up here, but you're here. How do you get there? You know, what is needed to get to where you want to be? So start walking those steps. And I must admit, like, I'm like, oh, you know, I want to be up here. I want to impact world leaders. You know, I want to be on stage and I want to have global impact. And it's like, yeah. That's a huge goal, you know, and I don't know if it's realistic. Maybe it's gonna happen someday, maybe it's not gonna happen, But what do I need to do in order to get there? You know, what steps can I take that is available here where I am in order to get to where I want to be? Yeah, I need to be comfortable being on stage in front of a camera. I need to be able to communicate in a way that people can understand me. I need to practice my tools and know my framework. I need to have my grounding quite steady, and I need to be anchored because the conversations I want to have will be on a very high level. And if I get triggered and go into like a 5-year-old in these dynamics, and well, it's not going to happen, you know? And that's not the conversation I want to have. So I've been doing inner work. I've been finding my foundation. I've been finding my inner anchor so that when I have conversations, you know, of course I listen. And that's of course a way to make people listen to you is, you know, I'm able to listen to you, and I'm open to taking in new perspectives, and I have my own framework. I have my own inner knowing that I'm like, this is what I believe in, and I'm hoping to learn a lot of things, but this is where I'm at the moment and what I'm coming in with and what I want to put on a table as a gift, and really seeing it as a gift because I know the big value that it has because of what it has created in my own life and in other people's lives that I have witnessed and also read about, you know. So yeah, it feels good. It feels really, yeah. So I've been thinking about this for a while because, you know, the podcast has been for a while about my inner journey, about all of the tools. It has been very personal, and I've been putting myself a lot on the table. And it's been very interesting to do that. And right now I'm feeling this kind of like shift in myself where I want to more share my knowledge, less about maybe my inner journey, and I want to interview people again, and I definitely want to use the tool. I want to use the tools that I have learned, but on a more kind of external perspective. So using these tools in a corporate setting, in a relationship setting, in a global politics setting, really diving into how we can tap out of the victimhood role and going into creating whatever it is we want to create. I also want to talk about like what creates burnout more in depth, how we use so much of our resources on things that are actually enabling and maybe even creating what we are trying to save people from. Yeah. Just gotta check my recording here. It's still going. You know, computers, when the screen turns off and it's like, oh, I'm recording, I kind of don't want to lose this, but then I kind of want to keep the focus here as well. Yeah. Yeah, so I think I see it's very valuable. I also believe that it's something that the world needs very, very greatly in this moment because there's happening so much. There's a big eruption. I see so much mental health issues, relationship drama, you know, the ghosting, the canceling, the insecurity, anxiety, depression. And in mental health, I know that there's lacking a lot of knowledge within how to actually empower people instead of enabling people. I've been on a sick leave and I've been part of something called NAV. It's like a social financial system, and it helps you back on track after you had a burnout, for example, but also, you know, if you fall out of work. And I see that this system is so enabling, putting you so much into the victimhood role. And it did so to the extent that it has been hard for me to get back to where I was. And I'm very used to creating and, and standing in my power. And suddenly I felt like, how do I do this? So, and they go into like this rescuer role where they need you to kind of be a victim, because that makes them feel good so that they can save you. And the therapists do this, and doctors do this, and there's so much this kind of like pedestal victim, I'm up here and you're down there, looking down on, like, you can't do this, I know the answers. And that's so unhealthy, because the only way that we can create our own lives is by us believing in ourselves and our own ability to create our own life, to create our own solutions, to stand in our own challenges in life, that we can handle it, even though we're sick, even though we're emotional, even though we go on some huge financial crisis. No matter what happened, if we lose our trust and our ability to handle this, we won't. Like, we get stuck. We get so stuck, and we're like, you gotta help me, you gotta rescue me. And it leads to it leads to addiction, it leads to escapism, it leads to divorce, it leads to people just leaving their kids, alcoholism, gaming, gambling, eating disorders, workaholics, scrollaholics and Netflixaholics, all of these things. Kind of, just disappearing from our bodies and into an alternative world, whatever it is. There's so many ways of just kind of like leaving the situation and just being like, I can't get out of bed. I just can't. And the thing is, underneath all of that, often there's so much power. There's still so much energy. It's just that we feel hopeless. And when we're hopeless, we feel stuck, and we really believe that I can't do it. And when other people around us kind of prove to us and are like, oh no, you can't do it, I'm gonna come and do it for you, they just like prove to us that, yeah, I can't do it. So everyone else has to come in and rescue me. It's not a good place to be, no matter how low you are. And a lot of people end up in this situation. And most people are in this situation in parts of their lives, somehow kind of like escaping and feeling sorry for themselves and really feeling hopeless, instead of being like, okay, this sucks. I'm not saying like you gotta acknowledge the feelings. You gotta be like, this really sucks. I'm not talking about like gaslighting yourself and others, but it's like, this really sucks. But no matter how much it sucks, you're gonna manage. You're gonna get out of it. You're gonna get back on track, and you can handle it. I'm not saying that if you are very sick, I'm not saying that you're not gonna die. I'm not saying that your loved ones won't die. I'm not saying that whatever is really challenging will disappear. But there's things we can still do. There's always something we can do. And that's what I want to keep the focus on, our mentality. Instead of being like, why did this happen to me? The universe and everything just always goes bad, and it's, I have such bad luck, and being like, okay, what if there's some luck in what happened now? What if what is happening is showing you a lesson? What do you learn from this? What can you do in this situation? You can work with your mentality. You can try and do the best out of the situation. You can do whatever is needed to make the best of what is, instead of eating chips and candy and complaining and escaping, to really be like, okay, this really shits, and now I really gotta focus. I don't want to be hurt. This really sucks. So what can I do? What can I impact? Is that where your focus is? Or is it on poor me, this sucks? Like the world is against me and there's nothing I can do. Then you're in hopelessness and you're in the victim role. And you're expecting someone to come and save you. And if someone does, they are in the rescuer role. And they will love it because they're going to feel very empowered by coming in and saving you. But you're still going to be down there and you're going to be dependent on them. And the moment they leave you, if they do, you're going to be back and you're going to be like, maybe things are going to be even worse because you're so dependent on them. And they love this, they love rescuing you. And then you have the perpetrator that is for sure going to be like, oh, you shit, you piece of shit, like you're bleh. And you're going to criticize you, they're going to judge you, they're gonna reject you, and you're gonna be, oh, these people are treating me so badly, I'm poor me, and everything is so bad, can you please rescue me, can you please, everything is so bad, so it's just don't. And I'm saying it's easy. We love being there. It's just like these inner children in us that are just like, oh, can someone please just care for me and feel sorry for me? It feels so good. And it does for a while. I'm sorry about the mic. It does for a while. But it's not healthy. It's really not healthy. You don't want to attract, the perpetrator who's just like, oh, you fucking moron. You don't want to attract the rescuer who comes in and thinks that by rescuing you, they're lovable. I really need you to be in the victim role for me to be lovable. Because once you're out of the victim role, the rescuer don't have any purpose anymore. They don't have a role. They don't have an anchoring because they find anchoring in rescuing you. So what they're gonna try and keep you as a victim, looking for ways to save you and really digging into all of your things and ways they can rescue you. And yeah, it's way better if you just go in to be like, sorry, I don't need rescuing. I need you to help me find my inner power because I want to do this my own. You can support me. I can ask you if I need something and all of these things, but I don't want you coming in and rescuing me because it's not a good energy. Yeah, that was a bit about what's coming. I think it's gonna be very good. Yeah. I feel like 2025, it's the year of power. It's the year of creation. Yeah. Let's go out and be and do and make all of the things happen that we have been thinking about for a month, a year, 5 years, 10 years, the things that are just always postponed. I've been looking into it. I made this list the other day. One of the things that I push through. I push, and no matter how much effort and energy and money I spend, I just prioritize it and do it so easily, and it's just that list. And then it was the other list, and that was things that I don't do. There's always some kind of excuse, and it's the avoidance part. I avoid doing this. There's some fear there, and it's as if I don't prioritize it, but I've been thinking about it for a long time. And for me, that's improv theater, contact improv. It's dancing form. It's I want to do salsa dancing, swing dancing. I want to sail more. I've been sailing before. I want to be outdoorsy. I want to get into a workout routine, really build myself strong again after the burnout. And now I'm just I'm gradually prioritizing these things and just kind of just doing it. And what's crazy about it, it's not that hard. I thought it would be really hard, and I can feel the thing is, in remembering these things is what's outside the comfort zone, because a lot of these things are outside the comfort zone. So for example, salsa dancing, I have this thing where I love dancing. I can dance wherever without thinking about it, but dancing with a partner, I feel that's a bit uncomfortable for me because I was told as a child that I don't have a rhythm. So I feel very vulnerable around dancing around someone and then potentially realizing that I don't have a rhythm, and you know, that's, yeah, becoming self-aware. So when I do this, it's a place where I challenge myself. So then, of course, when I challenge myself, I need to balance it out with things that uh, isn't isn't challenging me, things that are grounding me. So there's kind of like grounding, challenge, grounding, and a balance, because if else we get overwhelmed and we don't feel like mastery. Because like I love salsa dancing, I do, but you know, learning it and all of the steps, and it can be a bit, I don't know, like I'm very good with my body, but there's something about choreography that I find is very hard. And I think I'd zoom out somehow. So that's really something I want to do, but I have some fun, but it's also a lot of kind of like dread, kind of like, oh, this is a bit uncomfortable, it's vulnerable, it brings up a lot of feelings. I'm fear of failing, I'm feeling fear of rejection, you know, all of these things. And I still want to do it because I know on the other end of it, because I've been drunkenly dancing a lot, I know that I love it, but I need to walk through, you know, these paths to really uh, get to where it's mostly fun, even though I'm not the pro, but just be like, oh, I can dance and just have fun. I'm sure you have these areas of life as well where it's like, in theory, it's fun. In practice, it brings some anxiety. It brings like vulnerability. Yeah, whatever is your thing. But it feels good. It feels really good. So let's get to it. If you want to listen more to my podcast, you can go to Mage Fallentin podcast. Some of the episodes are in Norwegian, some in English. I've been doing this for 4 years, so there's like 95 episodes. You can also check out my other episodes on YouTube with the video, or on Spotify where it's only audio. And in the description below, you can find different links if you want to read more about me, the work that I do, my podcast, yeah, whatever. All right. Have a good day. Doo-doo-doo-doo.